welcome back. Thank everybody for doing the lunch thing and hopefully meeting some new people. We're going to have a series of quick housekeeping before we get in our next session. But first, just want you to know I didn't bring this gentleman up to raise the GQ standard at the altar or podium. I just wanted to introduce Amit Sareen. He's one of the GTR who's on rotation, but some of you met him during lunch. A few of you who will be watching on archive will now know what he looks like when you put in calls to him. And he has about a half dozen grantees from the class of 2011. So say hello.
Hello, and I look forward to meeting all of you, and especially my grantees from 11. So if I haven't met you already, come seek me out, and look forward to working together.
Amit's going to try to join us tomorrow afternoon at the close when we do the Meet Your GTR session, so you'll have a chance to wrap with them then. So,
yeah,
thank you,
thanks,
sir.
Dwayne.
So these housekeeping announcements are brought to you by the letter D. First of all, we have a new table over in the wings there, so if you're feeling a little claustrophobic in the middle of the country, you can actually disperse a little bit to there as long as you can still see us. We also had a question about, one of the groups was talking about the engagement and equity outreach, and they were saying, could there be a digital community where we could actually talk about these things? And I said, well, stay tuned to this afternoon because you're going to learn more about that and other capacity building opportunities. Someone actually asked me, they heard a rumor that there's a Dunkin' Donuts in the building. There is. It's on the third floor. I don't know if we can let you loosely go up there, but if we want to organize a little posse to do a cookie run later, we might be able to work something out. So just keep that in mind. And then a quick word, a heartwarming story I wanted to share with the other GTR who have been involved in the debrief process. One of the grantees, who will remain nameless from a major metropolitan area in western North Carolina, came up at the break. And they said, you know, we just wanted you to know that the debrief you did last year with us was gold. They said, because we really took it to heart and we followed some of the suggestions and critiques you had of the application, and we reapplied, and now we're here. And the reason that warms the heart of the GTR, and Solon can attest to this, is that we did what I think is a record for HUD in terms of proportion of debriefs to the amount of grants we received that didn't get funding last year. We had probably 250 debriefs that we did, all in about 60 days. And we were very attentive to those and really thorough with those to the best of our ability based on the feedback from our reviewers. And there were several of you who did come back to a second round of application. And to see you in the room is rewarding for us because it means that the direction was somewhat helpful. So we'll certainly pass that word on. What we're going to do for the next 45 minutes or so in two parts is just a little bit more on the roles and responsibilities. And this is more conversational than presentational. And so you heard a bit about the GO, GTR, and those are a couple of acronyms you'll get used to because it's just a mouthful to say government technical representative every time you're referring to us, and or grant officer every time you want to call James or Deb or Malcolm or Tad. So we're just going to talk for a few minutes about those roles and some of our experience in the first year, what's been useful and helpful, and then answer any questions you might have had that came up during the first part that you were scared to ask because you thought Zuleika might pounce on you with the answer. So Solon Gievergies is a senior advisor who is, along with James Norsworthy, has been here pretty much from the onset of the office. Solon comes from us from the outside world and James from the inside world. And we're just going to be up here. We're going to talk a little bit about this and then answer some questions. Pretty cool. So we'll start with the grant officer, because you heard a bit about that this morning. And James, maybe stepping beyond what we covered in the PowerPoint, you could just say a bit about your experience in some of the role you've played, and it's been helpful for the grantees in the first year.
Well, a lot of the roles that we perform for you guys are twofold. One is that not only do we try to protect internally ourselves from audits from OGC and from other entities, but also we try to help you guys out with your single audits. Obviously, a lot of you that come from city entities or county entities, it's a big problem that you guys always, you know, the first thing that I get on the phone is like, oh, we've had a clean audit for 36 years, or oh, we've had a clean audit, you know, or oh, you know, that ERA funding really got us. We have reporting problems, which I've heard quite a bit of too. So I try to do twofold. One is that obviously we try to make sure that everything that you guys do is an eligible activity. Most of you west of the Mississippi I've had conversations with, and we've walked through your budgets. A lot of those questions dealt specifically with the way that the budget line item should be recorded or be recognized as. That actually goes back to audit findings. So a lot of times when I make suggestions, myself, Malcolm, or Deb, when we make suggestions, it's to protect you and to protect us at the same time. So if you guys have problems, or if a question comes up, or if an issue comes up specifically about the way that your accounting department or the way that a finance person should recognize something, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll be more than happy to kind of walk you guys through a step. A lot of times, we refer to the consistency part. Whatever you guys are doing now, if you guys have clean records, obviously we would expect you guys to continue, because consistency is like the key to audits. As you guys move forward, if you guys have reporting issues, if it's something specific with not having capacity, or if it's a software issue, or if it's the way that you guys are demonstrating or recognizing cost, that's all stuff that we can help you with and work through. Particularly some of the smaller ones, there's a lot of you that had federal budget reductions this year. There's quite a few that are going through reorgs. Some are bringing new staff on. We kind of help you guys walk through all that stuff. From more of like the grant functioning, a lot of times the 424, and when it comes to the progress of reports, the 425, the Part 3, as you guys walk through those, if there's something specific that jumps out, I keep reports regularly. Dwayne will tell you this. I drive them nuts with like expenditure reports. If you guys start to have burn rates that are too high or too low, a lot of times, I'll pull the GTR aside and I'll be like, is there a reason why they're not spending money? Is there a reason why they're spending money? If you have a contract that you have out there, that obviously takes you guys to front load it because you guys don't have the funds. So all of a sudden you guys have like a $300,000 like disbursement. That may like completely throw your expenditure rate out of whack. So I take a look at all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff on the backside that you guys will never see, particularly like when it comes to risk analysis, when it comes to expenditure rates, when it comes to audit problems that we handle internally. We have outreach that goes to the other programs here at HUD. So if it's like CDBG funds, CPD contacts us. If it's home, voucher, Section 8, they'll contact us. Particularly like if it's one of those things, if they're trying to decide to put you guys on high risk or low risk, or, have we had any issues? Have you guys been a good grantee, a bad grantee? Is it the same departments? We handle a lot of that. Other than the basics of the actual mechanisms of like the 1044, me personally, I'm a contract officer here as well. So if you guys have contractual issues, the way that you guys put your contracts together, I do some consortium agreement stuff from time to time. I help out with Dwayne. We really are here to kind of assist you. Obviously we're spread pretty thin because we have a lot of grantees with a relatively small staff, but we do try to provide as much like TA and as much support as we can for you. We have some grantees that are absolutely amazing. You guys, there's a handful of you in here. You guys have been doing this, 100 years, and you guys have been amazing at it. So, those are the ones that we don't touch a whole lot. There's some other ones that it takes a little more hand-holding, and, we're here to help with that too.
A couple of points on what James is saying. One is, I think that's one of the reasons you heard Zuleika say, go through your GTR first, because often there are things that we may be able to answer to. We have fewer GOs than we do GTRs, and we may be able to resolve your question without actually approaching the GO. The other thing I'd say is that, or I was going to ask James, is during the last session, was there any moment when Zuleika was going over something and you were thinking to yourself, I know we've said this a couple times already, but I'm going to get so many questions about this. What are some of the things that really jump out for people that will keep coming back to us over and over?
The big ones, again, obviously procurement's always a huge issue. I've probably received 10 or 15 emails already from a variety of you guys, specifically about how to handle procurement, what you have to do with subs. Do you have to go out with RFP? Do you have to go out with RFQ? What do you have to do to recognize? Can we do an 8A? Can we do a sole source? So I handle a lot of that stuff as well. Again, there's pretty specific language and regulation about it. I know that we're developing policy that's going to go out to all of you. Some of the grantees have already received it. Some of the other stuff, indirects are always a big one. Indirects and how to recognize it, either it's indirect cost or if it's other direct cost. A lot of times I have a pretty basic equation, like ratio that I use, is that if you guys have like $500,000 in salaries and $500,000 in fringe benefits to take you up to a total staff accumulation of $1 million, you probably are getting to that point where you guys should really think about doing an indirect cost allocation plan. Whether that's us becoming your guys' cognizant agency or whether that's you guys going through your state DOT or your state highway funds, that's something that you guys should really consider. Because at that point, you guys really are accumulating a lot of overhead and a lot of costs that you guys aren't recognizing. I'm sure the finance and accounting people are in here probably shaking their heads like, yes, absolutely, they're killing us with this overhead. So that's always a big question. The cost allocation plan is a completely separate discussion that we can have like a sidebar with, but it can be pretty extensive depending on the size of your entity and the amount of funding that you receive. I mean, it could easily be anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 to have a accounting firm come in and actually perform it for you. There is some guidance that if you guys decide to take it on and you guys have the capacity to do it internally, you could do that as well. A lot of the smaller ones, though, if you guys stay underneath, in essence, like 10 to 15 like staff that work on any given project, you could probably get away with using your other directs, and then you just recognize them that way.
So, Solon, that's a pretty big territory that James and his team cover in the universe of what they do, but then everything else in the universe pretty much falls to the GTR. So say a little bit about what that's been like for you and just any observations you want to share.
Good afternoon.
Are you on? You're on.
Am I on?
You're on.
Do you hear me? You
Well,
don't
so-
hear me.
No.
Now you hear me. So I was thinking about, Dwayne, the presentation that Z and Zuleika and James had given. And I think the thing that folks have to probably get most adjusted to, which was a point that Zuleika mentioned, was the substantial involvement piece of this cooperative agreement. We had a number of grantees who I don't think were used to checking in with GTRs very much during the course of the grant. We can give you a little bit of a heads up so that you can begin to plan for it as you think about this year and the upcoming years, that in the beginning period, the frequency of communication with the GTR, and usually we try to schedule it out, that if it's not already scheduled, we'll start having check-in calls. Sometimes they can go incredibly frequently. Often it's either every other week in the beginning period to once a month at the least. And again, the frequency can increase given the kind of complexity of the award. And a lot of that is because both we're checking on your progress. We're honestly having, and I think during the balance of our conversation today and into tomorrow, we're going to actually hopefully start talking about the substance of what you guys are taking on, the difficult questions that you're already beginning to wrestle through. And you should really think of us, hopefully you will think of us as your partner in that. But I think lots of adjustment with that partnership relationship, with the kind of substantial involvement, which does have us reviewing things that maybe in previous conversations with other federal agencies you didn't have your GTRs really review very much. We do reserve that right to actually review with a commitment. And if you've heard anything from James, I hope part of the takeaway you've heard from him and from others of us this morning is our desire is to be very responsive to you. We are very committed to your success. Everything you've heard today, even in Zuleika's kind of dropping the hammer on you, is all about your success and making sure that both in terms of the investment that is made, but ultimately about the aspirations and the outcomes that you want to see happen in your region, that you're ultimately successful. So we're a partner with you. We will be as responsive as we can be on that. And I think most folks, whether it's the debriefs that Dwayne was talking about to the list of, if you can just think about the list of tasks that James just rattled off, and the number of kinds of questions that we end up taking on for the staff that you see listed on that, it's a lot of volume for a small staff with a huge commitment to have customer service and responsiveness. But there's some adjustments in there, undoubtedly.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is some of that frequency in the beginning is around some of those on-the-clock deliverables, and that is the work plan, the consortium agreement for regional grantees, the logic model, and we're going to talk about each of those shortly this afternoon. And so what you'll find is you'll be seeking us out quite a bit in those first couple of months to make sure you're moving on the right pace or course. Once that all settles down and you get into the business of work, what we've found is a decent rhythm is a monthly check-in call, and often we will engage folks from the field, and Naomi will tell you a little bit more about that, to join those calls because they have contacts on the ground. Some grantees actually desire more frequent communication. As you get to your year 2, we're finding with some of those grantees who are now in month 13, month 14, they're moving to every other month. Some of them are staying at a month, but some are moving to every other month. And so what you'll find is while there's a lot of contact, I think most of it's actually productive. And you guys are usually pretty quick about telling us if it's not. So I think with that as a context, maybe we'll open the floor for some questions and see if there anything in particular people want to ask about the roles we play. The other thing I'd say as the queue is mounting, if it mounts at all, is that there's a lot of interagency work that we play as GTR, trying to make sure that as many people as possible know about the grants that you guys are doing or the work you're doing, and trying to leverage those opportunities you heard a little bit about this morning from the federal partnership team. So we get queried daily, I'd say almost, I don't think I'd be exaggerating to say hourly, but we get queried several times a day from even within government about opportunities to connect the grants or what's happening, what is the theme, how many of your grantees are working on issue X, is there an alignment here, what does this fit? And so we also are playing that liaison role with you guys to other agencies, hoping to make those connections. So with that, I'll see if there are any questions from the audience. Right about now is where digestion starts to set in. If not, what we'll do is roll to what was going to be part 2 of this conversation, which is you've been hearing about us in the building at headquarters and very much this morning, but now we're going to actually have Naomi Friedman join us, and actually she can take my seat. And she's going to talk a little bit about the field work and the field teams that support the work that we do. So, and she's using our prop.
Hello, everybody. And my only regret is that you can't bring coffee into the room. I know that's challenging when you feel a little drowsy, but hopefully we'll keep you wide awake. So I am Naomi Friedman. I am the GTR for several of you. I think, if I'm counting correctly, I think I have 11 of the new grantees. Both challenge grants and planning grants. And I've met several of you already, and I hope to meet the rest of you later today or tomorrow. So, and I will also qualify to say, though I have been in this field for a while, I am relatively new to HUD. So I am also learning a lot. So if you hear me occasionally say I need to check back with someone, please understand that we're all coming up to speed together in some cases. So today I've been asked to talk a little bit about some of the help and support that you can get from folks in the field. You heard this morning about our great partners from EPA and DOT and USDA who are bolstering up the support that you are receiving on these grants, and obviously the team we have here from headquarters. But I wanted to just remind you of the folks that are there to help you in the field. All of the agencies have a field structure. Our field structure is similar in some ways to that of EPA in terms of how we define our regions, the same 10 regions. And actually, in your binders, if you had any questions of who falls into which region, under grantee summaries, there is that map Shelley referred to earlier today, highlighting all of the 2011 grantees, and it's divided by region, as is this table here. And Raise your hand if you have already heard from your HUD regional or field office. How many of you? Wow, that's a good, at least a third of you. Wow. So our goal is that every one of you soon will be raising their hand because we are formalizing our structure for the field support that you will be receiving. Now, as I explained, both HUD and EPA have a somewhat similar field structure with the 10 regional offices. And as Shelley mentioned this morning, about 2/3 of the HUD employees are actually working on the regional and field level. So that's quite a lot of offices. You will see under the Roles and Responsibilities tab a list of what we call our sustainability officers. So we have a pretty robust field presence when it comes to this relatively new initiative. And we call our folks sustainability officers, or SOs for short, because we love acronyms. And you can see on that 2-page list that there are folks appointed around the country to provide assistance to you as well as to help galvanize these issues in other communities other than our grantees. So they do all kinds of work in the field. They meet with their counterparts from the other agencies. They might meet with state government, local government, grantee communities, not grantee communities. Now, if you look at the next page, you will see a spreadsheet with colors. And on that, you will notice both your GTR name, and it's by last name, first initial, last name, so hopefully you can figure out who's who. And you will also see all the way to the right is a column, I think it says regional rep or field rep. That is the person from one of the HUD field or regional offices who is assigned to your grant. So we have asked each region to appoint at least one person per grant. And we are calling this person now, we have a new fancy title, Grantee Liaison. So the Grantee Liaison is the person from the field, boots on the ground, who knows the players a lot better than we do and could help facilitate relationships, open up doors, alert you to new funding. They are not your grant officer. They are not your GTR. So I'm going to see if this PowerPoint works. So there we have you, the grantee, the prime. You're the body who is responsible for that long list of stuff that Zuleika laid out this morning. You have your consortia, but we don't monitor your consortia in the way we monitor the prime. That's your responsibility. You have subcontracts. You monitor their work. We're monitoring you. We're supporting you directly. Now, it worked. Okay, so we have the grant officer, and that's just a few bullets of some of the key things that they do. Following the grant officer, we have the GTR. And as you know, you saw the list, and each of you by now know who your grant officer is as well as your GTR. But what I want to introduce to you now is the third layer, and that is the grantee liaison, the field grantee liaison. Now, clearly, this is a lot of different people, and we don't want this to be confusing to you. I think folks did a great job this morning talking about the difference between the grant officer and the GTR. So our hope with a field liaison is not to have another layer of red tape for you to go through. This person is not responsible for your financial reporting. This person is not responsible for your deliverables. The grantee liaison is basically just an ally to you in the field. And we are going to look for ways to involve them in your work, which could range from their participation on one of those monthly phone calls that Dwayne talked about. It could be their effort in coming to your kickoff events, opening up doors, and just in general being there for you. And we'd like feedback from you as well. So if you're finding that your grantee liaison has not called you, that your grantee liaison is not all that helpful, please let us know. This program is relatively new. The Sustainable Officer Program is barely 2 years old, and this grantee liaison position that we're formalizing now also is fairly new, so we'd love your feedback on how to make it better. And, well, anyway, I'm going to stop right here and see if anyone has any particular questions on how this structure works. Yeah. Way in the back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. We are trying as hard as we can to fill that completely out, and as you've noticed, there are a few gaps. So I will make sure we fill that out, and then we redistribute that list. So apologies if currently there are a few blank spaces. Have you heard from anyone in the field office at this point? Sir, have you heard from anyone? No, they've not. Okay. Well, we'll work on trying to firm that up a little bit. Okay. Great. Any other questions? Yes. Sure. Great question. Sorry to skip that. First of all, these people are only spending a few hours a week on this responsibility. About half of these people are from field policy and management, and about half of these people are from specific program offices like housing, or community planning and development. All of these people, these 70 or so sustainability officers on your list, have other jobs. They have stepped forward, filled out an application process, coordinated with their regional administrator and with our office, and volunteered to take on some extra work. In some cases, they are taking on a lot of extra work. They're maybe spending several days of their week doing this. In other cases, they're spending a few hours a week. Our hope is that sustainability officers are embedding the sustainability work into the everyday work that they do. We'll all know that we're successful if we don't have to have special sustainability grants. If everything we do with these grants are business as usual. But we know at this point it is not business as usual, so we need to create these special appointments. And these folks are working hard to take on extra responsibilities. So in terms of what are they doing already, a lot of them are facilitating connections between the other agencies. You were here this morning when we had the panel of the federal partners. They're trying to do that in their region. So they're improving communication, for example, with their regional and state DOTs. They're trying to get USDA and EPA to work better together so that they can coordinate investments. So a lot of them have been holding educational sessions, forums. One of the big responsibilities is reaching out to the grantees. That's one of several things that they're doing and that they have been doing pretty much over the last year and a half. Dwayne, did you want to add anything to that? Okay. Any other questions?
Let me mention one thing. We're going to have a chance to talk about it over the next day and a half, but I wanted to explain one thing just as a heads up. on this slide, and this relates to your consortia. For the regional planning, how many regional planning grantees do we have? So during the course of the next day and a half, there are going to be numbers of times where the community challenge folks will say, does that apply to me? Or does that apply to me as a regional planning grantee? There are a number of additional things that happen with regional planning grantees and requirements and kind of complexity. One is this notion of the consortia. It's not to say, obviously, that the community challenge folks don't have partners. The thing that I wanted to mention, given the relationship with the prime, is you all who are particularly regional planning grantees should, as a norm, realize that your processes are pretty public. If they're not public already, they will be very public. That often, whether it's the regional engagement team or any of us who visit you, we will often have a chance to interact with your consortia. Your consortia will get business cards and they will contact us, right? So even though our primary communication often is with the prime, it does not obviously prevent any of your consortium members from actually having conversation with us. Now, it's a very interesting check and balance in the system because what will happen is you will often say certain things to us and your consortium members may say, actually, that's not at all happening, right? Or you might want to ask the grantee a question about X. And I just wanted to give a heads up because there were a lot of folks in the first year who weren't quite used to the multilateral ways in which communication actually happens, and the fact that we open ourselves up to be communicated with. So it's just one thing as a heads up.
I guess I just want to also clarify, I think the slide does it, but all of the things we talked about this morning that you need to run by your GTR, we are encouraging you to have very close relationship with your field and regional folks, but they are not the same as your GTR. They cannot approve work plans. They cannot approve press releases. What they can do, though, is give you input into drafts. It might save you time if you do a little bit of back and forth with your grantee liaison and say, do you think we're kind of getting what they want? You're welcome to do that. But they are not empowered to approve, disapprove, or do any of those kind of official duties that we're really responsible for.
I just observed from year one that in the places where we've been successful in integrating what we're now calling grantee liaisons, they have been really adept at understanding your context and making timely recommendations on people to connect to, on how to work with the partners. That's really been the sweet spot, and that's really what we're trying to strengthen by formalizing this, not necessarily increasing extra roles for them, but just giving them the ability within a bureaucracy, frankly, to do that work consistently and aggressively with you. And if it doesn't quite feel clear at this point, my guess is within 3 months you'll have no question in your mind about who to call for what, just by going through the experience.
So any other general questions? Because I wanted to introduce someone else from HUD speaking about taking advantage of other HUD resources. There's someone else here who's going to speak about her program in a minute, but any other questions about what the field folks do and what they don't do? Please step forward. Great. So as Dwayne said, this is a work in progress, and we are fully aware that there'll be some variation from region to region, depending on the personality of the person you're working with and what their interests are and what they focus on with you. So just keep us posted. We're going to try to circle them into our update calls, and we welcome your feedback. So I want to introduce Alexa Rosenberg, and she is here at headquarters, and she's with the Neighborhood Choice program. And this is an example of where we are beginning to embed the sustainability message within other programs at HUD. And this is a really, really exciting program. And we think there's great overlaps and great potential for our programs to work together. Thank you, Lorna.
Thanks, Naomi.
Oh, Alexa, I'm sorry. Alexa.
Yes, hi. I'm Alexa Rosenberg. I'm with the Choice Neighborhoods program. And I think we wanted to use this as an opportunity. You heard earlier this morning, I believe, from some other federal agency partners, but we are also making connections internally to support the work on the ground in the field. So Choice Neighborhoods is another one of HUD's signature place-based initiatives, and we are a key partner with the Sustainable Communities Initiative. Some of you may be familiar with Choice Neighborhoods. How many of you have heard of the program?
Right.
Okay, that's pretty good. So it is a program designed to transform neighborhoods of concentrated poverty that have severely distressed either public housing or other HUD-assisted multifamily housing into viable mixed-income communities with high-quality services and assets. And so in many cases, the scale may be different from the Sustainable Communities Initiative programs, but some of the goals are very similar. The program has 3 key pillars: housing, people, and neighborhood. So on the housing side, looking to transform this distressed housing into mixed income, energy efficient, physically and financially viable over the long term, and with one-for-one replacement of units. On the people side, kind of improving access to quality services in the realms of education, health, public safety, employment, and then with right of return for original residents. And on the neighborhood side, again, creating mixed income, improved community assets, both physical, commercial, recreational, and then transit and retail as well. So it's really a program that supports kind of comprehensive community planning at the neighborhood scale with investment and partnerships with schools, hospitals, local service providers, proximity to jobs, services, and transportation, and some of the similar goals of walkable communities, green and healthy homes, et cetera. Like the Partnership for Sustainable Communities, Choice Neighborhoods is also part of another White House interagency initiative called the Neighborhood Revitalization Working Group, or NRI, some of you have heard of. This is a partnership between HUD, the Department of Justice, the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, and Treasury. So another set of agencies working together to kind of align programs and resources. We have both planning and implementation grants, and we are running both of these competitions in FY12. Some of you may already have partners who have this one or another of these grants. Some of you may be interested in partnering with someone who can apply, or you yourselves may apply. So the implementation NOFA is actually on the street now with an April deadline. The planning grant NOFA will be coming out shortly. And Naomi asked me to remind folks that you do not have to have had a planning grant in order to apply for an implementation grant. So that's important for some people. So just to give a sense of the overlap, of the 13 planning grantees for Choice Neighborhoods that were just awarded in January, 11 of them got 2 bonus points for preferred sustainability status. So that's a lot, 11 out of 13. And I think of the SCI grantees in the room, many communities also have Choice Neighborhoods grantees. When I looked at the list, just briefly, I think Little Rock has a 2011 Choice Neighborhoods planning grant. Sacramento has a 2011 planning grant. Opelika has a 2011 planning grant. Boston has a 2010-11 implementation grant. Baltimore has a 2010 planning. Wilmington, North Carolina has a 2010 planning. Buffalo, New York has a 2010 planning. Providence has a 2010 planning. Memphis has a 2010 planning. And Seattle also has an implementation grant. So there are a lot of you who are already, I think, working with some of our grantees, and we hope that that opportunity grows in the future. So if people are interested in exploring this overlap in more detail, I'm available tomorrow. I'm not sure, we may want to, gather those folks who have this overlap together, but I am available. I can also answer questions if anyone has any.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexa. So Dwayne, are you ready to move on?
Dwayne, as Dwayne comes up, just so, and again, lots of folks are going to be postprandial right after lunch, glazing over, not sufficiently caffeinated.
Choose your words carefully.
Knowing that, one of the significant things about what Alexa just said, and if it was lost on folks, is that Choice Neighborhoods, both on the planning and implementation, is a preferred sustainability status program. So when Shelley was talking about it this morning in terms of those 2 bonus points, when often it's a fraction of a point that separates win and loss, it will turn you guys into very popular people. Who are very interested in either the Choice Neighborhoods program or any of the other preferred sustainability status programs. So any of those suite of programs, and we'll talk a little bit later on about where PSS is going to be headed, are important things to kind of keep in mind about how do you go to the next stage of implementation.
Yeah, and in competitions here at HUD at least, often the division between winners and almost winners is usually less than a point. So I'm going to ask a couple of our other GTR, we're going to get them all on stage before it's over here, to come up and join us. Most notably, Rachel Kirby, who with her partner will be leading our conversation around the program and policy guidance. Partner due soon. We've decided as an office we're going to grant Rachel an additional rotation, maternity rotation shortly. So those of you who have her as your GTR will get to meet some of the rest of us for a few months also. And I'm not sure why Solon got off stage because I think he's still supposed to be up there. Uh-huh. Yes, you are. Sit down.
So, in this session, we're going to walk through all of the program policy guidance documents that we've posted on our website. I think we have a PowerPoint. I don't know if it's just next. Yes. So, these are the documents Zuleika talked about earlier. They're, formal documents. They look very fancy, that answer questions that we've had a lot. Some of these are formalizing guidance that Dwayne developed for our 2010 grantees, and we just put them into this sort of memo form. Some of them are actually changes to guidance, like the food guidance that we'll talk about later. So you can find them, you can either type in this website or go to our website, and if you go down under resources, the first thing under resources says policy guidance for existing sustainable communities grantees, and if you click on that link, you get to a page with all these documents. They link to PDFs. You have all of them in your binders, and we will walk through them now. We won't go through them quite in order, so if we skip one, that's why. So the one labeled, they're labeled by the office, the year we issued them, and the order we issued them in. So 2011-03 preferred sustainability status, you don't have in your binder because it was replaced with 2012-01, which updated that guidance with the preferred sustainability status information for 2012. And also there's one for reporting for combination HUD DOT grantees, but we did not have the pleasure of doing that again this year, so that's not relevant for any of you. So it's not in your binder. So I think Dwayne is, maybe Solon, is going to talk about your work plans.
Me again. So, in short order, and you heard this referred to by Zuleika and James and our colleagues from the Grant Officer Division about building a complete work plan. You see the slide in front of you. You heard the kind of tacking period that starts upon your execution date of about a 60-day turnaround. You see the guidance, and again, this is all listed in the program guidance that you actually have here about how we need you to kind of think about the work plan. Given the kind of seriousness of the task of the work plan, we encourage, again, and I was mentioning to one of fellow grantees earlier today, early engagement with the GTR around your work plan. If last year is any indication, and I'll invite Dwayne to clarify or correct what I'm about to say, the way we usually did the construction of the work plan is for you to build out that 60 days in 30-day kind of increments, meaning in the first 20 days, set a kind of informal deadline to yourself that I'd like to get a draft work plan, given the guidance that's been given, to the GTR. The GTR will, in short order, begin to share, to Naomi's point earlier, that draft work plan with your regional engagement team. So those field grant liaisons, other folks in the agencies who have a chance. It's a really important set of interactions in that 60-day window because it begins to reveal all the ways in which your work plan actually align with other investments and other efforts that are happening in the region of which you may or may not know. So that as we go into that next 20 days of interaction with regional engagement team, by the time you hit that last third, 40 to 60 days, you actually have both feedback from your GTR and our office. You now have feedback actually from your regional engagement team. And as you head into the last third, you actually can finalize your work plan knowing full well that on behalf of the partnership in our office, you actually have all the kind of feedback you need. You see the constituent elements there, 1 to 2 page abstract, a written work plan that explains objectives, major activities, specific steps, tasks, responsibilities, and anticipated outcomes, a worksheet that maps out the elements in kind of a work plan summary form, and then the Gantt chart. I think all of you, when you got one of your many, many emails that you will yet to receive from Dwayne Marsh.
Several.
Yes, that we sent you samples of work plans from last year to give you a sense of the kind of range of ways in which grantees responded to that program guidance. Now, Dwayne, clarifications or corrections?
You made us sound almost strategic the way you explained
thank
that.
you.
That was really good. No, Salin's absolutely right. We sent out about 12 days ago the samples. We tried to include some that were larger, some that were smaller, some challenged, some regional. And we would have possibly been having conversations in the window between then and now, except we were preparing for this meeting. So what I would say is that really coming off this meeting, as you're preparing that first version, your GTR know to make the highest priority to be immediately available for you to have a conversation with your initial draft. So we're not going to lose time that we may have lost in this last week or so getting ready for the convening with you waiting for your GTR to get back. And in fact, if you want to try to schedule that time a few days out and then, to submit something a couple days before, we're making ourselves available for that. The field staff, I think, are also prepared. They recognize that they need to get us their input quickly so that we can factor that in as we have the conversation with you. But the dialogue is between the GTR and the grantee on the elements that we want to see there. We added the Gantt chart, our timeline, because we found that was actually a very helpful way, not just for us to understand how you're holding on to your movement through the grant, but also for your partners or your consortium members to track that as well. And I think the examples that we put in there were pretty clear about what makes for a solid Gantt chart. So if you haven't started a conversation with your GTR, don't fret about that, but do prioritize getting those times set with your GTR to get those conversations going.
I've also found it helpful, even if you don't have a full draft, but you have, a draft of one of the tasks. If you want to send that to your GTR, it can be really helpful to get feedback on that first.
Speaking of feedback.
On that first task or first section, before you go on and finish it. So then you can incorporate that feedback the first time you write the rest instead of the second time. All right. So the next guidance is consortium agreements.
So this is the part where challenge grantees can sigh relief and regional grantees can listen a little more closely. We actually, in the materials we sent in that communication a while ago, sent out the main considerations in building the consortium agreement. I want to put a little backdrop on that. For us, this is in some ways the most important document that we reviewed during the course of the grant because it is the rules of doing business for your collective. And it has to not only shine in those moments where you guys are whipping along at top speed, but when the moments of greatest tension that are going to naturally emerge during your planning process, the document has to hold up. So you might find us at certain points really challenging you on things like the structure you've put in or how your governance is set up or how decisions will get made in a certain way. But it's born on experience from working with the 10 grantees on really important elements to have clear and clearly laid out in the agreement you have. Once you've gone through the trouble, frankly, of getting all your partners to agree and buy into an agreement structure and to sign on to that, you don't want to really reopen that can of worms and have to renegotiate the agreement. So to that end, we found 10 or so principles we think are really essential to building the agreement. I'm going to go through those really quickly. Note that you have 120 days to move this forward. We, in the similar vein of the phases that Solon described previously, think of this in thirds as well, because really there's conversation you're having amongst your consortia with some early guidance from us in the first 40 days to come to agreement on what you want to submit. We will look at as many drafts of this as you will send us to make sure we get it where we want it. And by we, I mean all of us. The middle 40 days is really where we're hammering out those last details. It can be 10 days. It might be the first meeting, but we leave some window for that. And then we really want to leave it more than a month for signing, as much time as possible, really, for signing up of your partners. Some partners are going to need to have meetings, council meetings or other boards to meet. And so we want to make sure you don't get left in a place where you've only got 25 days left to meet the deadline and there's not another meeting of your council for 32 days. So we try to get through these first two phases as expeditiously as possible. So the 10 things I'd say, one is really clearly stating the goals of the consortium. And you should lay out the high-level goals and milestones as well as the notion that this, for the regional plans, this is a driving document that will guide future planning in the region. If you have other clear products that are going to be created as a process or consequence of the process, you want to lay those out as well. We want to articulate the specific roles to be executed by the different entities. So the lead applicant's duties should very clearly be spelled out. The functions of each kind of participating organization should be spelled out. The tiers of participation and ways people can participate should be spelled out as well. When people get excited about this, once you've done the sales job to convince them they need to be a part of this, they should be able to very clearly know where they can plug in and where they can make a difference. We also want to hear about, and you hear this theme throughout, the engagement of communities and who will bring their perspectives to the governance structures. This really is leaving the model behind of we had a lot of people who usually aren't in the planning process come to a meeting and we felt good about that. This is translating that into outcomes at the other end. This is about translating that into governance and leadership and actual work by those communities. And so these structures that you describe are one of the ways to do that. You want to specify the accountability mechanisms. You want to make sure people will be held to task for their responsibilities and what the consequences are if they don't meet those. And believe me, if you don't do that, you'll wish you had done that later based on our experience thus far. You want to be clear on which parties are bringing staff and which ones are bringing other kinds of expertise. Be sure your terms of membership are clear in the consortia and the measures you use to track the progress and participation of those commitments. You want to make sure you clarify your decision-making protocols. You want to be certain that certain steps are identified that show how day-to-day decisions are made so people who are new to the process or someone outside of the process can understand that and not accuse you of being in a black box on how this is moving forward. You want to make sure you detail recommendations from the working groups that you create, because I think virtually every regional planning grant created working groups, and how those actually are integrated into the deliberations of the governing body. Often people brought new leadership to the table by having, as one example, those working group resolutions carry some primacy in the final plan unless the leadership or executive group could bring cause for why they didn't go with those recommendations. So there are different tools, and we can share those with you that people use. You definitely want to spell out the governance structure. You want to articulate who will decide which aspects of major components of the planning process will go forward, structures for subcommittees, working groups, the interrelationship of these bodies, and how multi-jurisdictional agreements will be reached and implemented. You want to talk about how resident input can be incorporated in decision-making, and again, how you clearly lay out the traditionally underrepresented populations will connect both to opportunities to provide perspective and also to participate in those long-term decisions and outcomes. If there's an existing structure that works, explain how it's being modified to incorporate that. If you're creating a new one, you should specify that. This is all written down, by the way, so if you're not trying to fiercely note-take, don't feel bad. Joinability. It's a special OSHC term. We like to facilitate it. And it's really about the fact that if you're doing your work well, you're going to discover someone in your region who's not a part of your process in day one. No matter how much outreach you did to your proposal, and some of you got very high marks on that, there's still some people out there you haven't reached yet. So you want to be sure you're clear about how they can be incorporated into the process in a meaningful way. And you want to also be sure to build their capacity to join the process later along the way without having necessarily to go back to square one because you have new members in your consortium. So think about those, how you integrate those perspectives. Where it's appropriate, especially when there's financial compensation involved for a partner being involved, you want to make sure you create the right individual instruments for that. We've talked a little bit about that earlier. You want to document the benefits and expected contributions from people. You're expecting something from your partners and your consortium members. They're getting something back from you. They're getting engagement in the process. They're getting preferred sustainability status access. They're getting connection to other federal agencies. And we found that groups that document those benefits very clearly tend to have an easier time with their recruitment. You want to detail special conditions where they are appropriate, and they can take numerous forms, specifically around if there's changes in representation from a member, if there are changes in the consortium structure or agreement, if the duration of representation is, you're already thinking beyond the 3-year grant and about how to make this longer standing, and so the terms for participation, those kind of things you want to spell out. You also want to be clear with people about the roll-down provisions that Zuleika and James mentioned earlier, that roll down to your sub-grantees. And there's some optional considerations if you have any breathing room left whatsoever at that point to build into your agreement that are spelled out. So as I mentioned, we will review these with you and develop them with you actively. We'll try to bring all the experience that we have from last year. We recognize that your place is completely different and unique than every other place, and we couldn't possibly understand it not having been from there. That said, we have a range of experience that we're going to bring to bear and hope that it's useful as you develop those plans. So with that, I will hand it back for other thoughts.
So my colleagues may have a quick word about facilitate joinability, our nice OSHC expression. If you're not already sensing it, I would encourage you to live it, which is this kind of tension you're going to feel, particularly around the regional planning grantees where this is appropriate and applicable, is the tension between what parts of your structure are fixed and what parts of your structure are actually joinable. And one of the things that I think any number of our GTRs can give lots of voice to was, given the kind of public nature of your work, where people have an expectation in the public arena that they should easily be able to interface and interact with the structure, right? And they will hear from HUD and from our partners that we want to encourage the level of kind of robust engagement. But as you construct your structure and your consortium, there will definitely be this kind of notion of where is it that voting and non-voting, and where is it that some things are fixed and other structures are joinable. So I just wanted to flag that for you, because our desire with you is going to be as open and transparent as you can be in your work, and to encourage people to feel like they have a place at the table. That's the disposition we will bring. That will be the way in which we will interact with you as we're checking in, particularly during this kind of consortium agreement drafting process. And part of what you will have to, I think, your burden will be, is to say, we are open, we are transparent, we want there to be joinability. There may be other structures that where we have that we can be that much clearer about. But that was one, I think, there are others, but that was one I know from year one where we've had some tension.
Great. Should we take questions as we go along, or? We can speak at one. Yeah. Hey, why don't you come up to the mic if that's reasonable?
Hi. I wanted to clarify the difference between a sub-grantee agreement and a consortium agreement, particularly in terms of the roll-down provisions. if we have consortium members who are not going to be receiving HUD funds, we have some of those who are not going to be receiving HUD funds, but who have indicated that they will provide in-kind match. We have other consortium members who will not be receiving HUD funds and also have not already designated in-kind match. And the question is, to whom do those roll-down provisions apply?
The consortium agreement sets the table for the entire partnership. So let's just say you have 75 consortium members and 10 of them are getting money from the grant. Your consortium agreement is the document that you theoretically would have all members sign the same version, even if, and the roles would be spelled out. And you say there's in it, we often have a phrase that we put in and we can share with you about individuals who are receiving financial contribution will receive a separate instrument, and then you do an instrument for those getting the money, and those you spell out the roll-down provisions. But there's a certain amount of following the procedures and behaviors of the grant that you expect from all your partners.
Yeah.
But yeah, the roll-downs go where the money goes, and then the agreement spells out the joint behavior and approach that you want to see from your partners.
Thank you.
Kind of following up on her question, if we have subrecipients that are incurring costs or spending personnel time now prior to their contract or separate agreement, are those things reimbursable, even though they're prior to us having a contract with them?
If they are doing work that is after the effective date of the grant, and you are, and then it pertains to what you've actually contracted with them to do, then they can reimburse. But if they're doing work prior to the effective date, that work is not. And we couldn't. That's why we pushed to get you guys on board even to come to this meeting. We can't reimburse for money for activities that happen before the effective date.
But as the prime grantee, we're under contract. We have our agreement with HUD signed. My subrecipients, if they're incurring costs, is that reimbursable, or do they have to wait to be under contract with
How
me?
and what kind of work are they doing at this point?
Well, like, let's say legal review of that contract, or let's say developing the work plan for their work item.
My recommendation would be you have them handle the legal review and submit the actual agreement and get that signed before they start diving into other aspects. There's some limited setup costs that can actually be dealt with for them, but you don't want to go there. You want them to get signed on before they start doing too much additional work.
Also, your sub-grantee agreement isn't your consortium agreement.
Right. Right.
It's just whatever your normal, you're giving some other organization money agreement is. It probably should refer to this grant, but it's not.
Yeah, there's
not your consortium agreement, so you don't have to get that signed before you can do a sub-grantee agreement.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of, cost of doing business when you're moving into partnership with people that we're not picking up the cost of that. We expect everybody does this work. You do some work that leads to more work that you get paid for as well. So that's why you want to have them signing on as quickly as possible and let them be able to be reimbursed for as much of that work as you can.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any consequences if all of the partners that we identified in the grant application don't sign the consortium agreement within the first 120 days? And kind of a related question, does a partner have to sign the consortium agreement in order for any resources they dedicate to be counted as matching resources?
Okay, Ed's behind the curtain. He's producing the whole show. This is where you can cue the thunder and lightning for the failure to get everyone to sign within 120 days. No, here's how I answer that question. We should make every effort to get complete sign-up by the 120 days, because that's what the NOFA states. That said, you heard earlier that we are not here to keep you from being successful. If you get to day 118 and you're chasing down the last couple applications, I would not jump out of a window because you're afraid you're not going to get those, but I also wouldn't stop pursuing them heavily. We have a grantee who had 145 partners, and a lot of those are jurisdictions and municipalities. They really tried to get them all by day 120. They did pretty good. So just work with your GTR, that would be me, and I'm sure you won't get into a situation that's unfavorable. And then in terms of them signing on to be able to access the dollars, I would highly recommend that as your strategy, as opposed to letting them spend the money before they've signed on to the consortium agreement.
Dane Boxa with REAP down in Wichita, Kansas. My question is, you talked a little bit about the accountability measures, but when you have like an instance where you had 145 partners, I mean, they're not all going to come to the table at everything that you would require them to be at. And so I guess, what are some examples of accountability that you'd be looking for in the consortium?
And it speaks to the roles you have laid out. So that's a good agreement says, if you're a member of the working committee on a subject matter issue that we're going to cover over a 2-year period, we're going to have 12 meetings. We expect that you'll make at least 9 of those meetings, or you'll have a representative. So you kind of spell out those kinds of actions. And then, if you fail to do that, you may be asked to, be replaced. So it's those kinds of terms, but we don't say everybody who's a part of your consortium has the same bar of participation and same accountability. So you want your accountability to be commensurate with the responsibility you want them to do. And I think that's in some of the models we shared, but that's also what your GTR will work with. If you have a specific example, they'll try to find a good match for that.
I mean, one quick amendment to that is, and this may be assumed by you and others, is you applied and were awarded partially because of the partners you brought to the table. It could have been a disqualifying element if there are certain partners who, quite frankly, disappear, right? So part of what we've got to preserve is you applied, we gave you guidance about the nature of partners that need to be brought to the table and the range of types, right? So suddenly if we actually see all jurisdictions, no nonprofit partners, technically you're in violation of the NOFA, right? And so I would go back to the way in which you applied. You may have had lots of letters of support, some that you expected would actually be in with you, others that may come kind of episodically through the process, but preserve the integrity of what you applied to do, because that's the reason why you were awarded.
That grant example I used, the 145 members, is a reason they're still chasing down every member. So you do want to bring who you brought to the table where possible.
I appreciate the comments about joinability. We've already been approached by a couple of groups that were not part of the consortium that would like to be. But what about parts of the consortium that might not want to be for financial or other reasons, if they had committed to match funding, let's say, and now they're not in a position to do so? Have you had experience with that in the first year of awardees?
Cue thunder and lightning again. These are planning grants, and they're 3 years, and we all know that both plans and future does not come out exactly the way we anticipate. That said, there are certain thresholds you made and points you scored based on the match you had. Part of the work your GTR does is works with you. So if you get in touch, let's just say you had $1 million grant with 40% leverage, or even let's say 80% leverage. The first question we'd have is, why did you promise 80% leverage? But that would be a separate conversation. And let's just say that, a partner is going to cost you $5,000 of that $800,000 you had. We're probably going to be able to work that out. If a partner comes out who is half of your leverage, we have an issue. And so that's our role as GTR, is to navigate you to meet as much of the aspiration you put forward in the grant as possible. But you'll hear us use that term a lot, aspiration, because we recognize that if this work were that simple, we wouldn't have this grant program.
My question relates to our work plans. Somebody referenced earlier, well, none of you got 100. I assume you were referring to the work plan that was submitted as part of the original grant submission. Is that correct? Okay, so that is the basis from which we will now make improvements and work. Okay, so we take that first.
Just keep nodding.
Get in touch with our GTR. Try to identify where our weak points were and then tweak those. We're not developing a work plan all over again, but rather using that one as a springboard to getting to this next level where, we've got buy-in from everybody and we can get to a plan that's acceptable.
You got a 4-part nod from Solomon, which is hard to do, so that was good. But what I'd say is that we gave you models or templates to use. If your Word version is in a different format than our Word version, it's not like it's the end of the world. If you had such a sensational version in your application and you want to build off of that, just touch base with your GTR before you go too far down that road. Make sure the format's going to work and what you're covering is there.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I don't remember getting the examples, but maybe that's another one of those email things that just didn't get read. So
If no one from your team, check with your teams today. If no one from your team got the email that said welcome as the first word in the email, then had a bunch of stuff attached.
I remember welcome.
Scroll down on those attachments. They're there. But if nobody got one, definitely come see us. Give us your card. Make sure we have your contact information. It'd be great to walk away from this meeting with everybody being on that.
So,
Right.
So Dwayne's emails are often quite lengthy, but they're
Useful.
that lengthy for a reason, and it's very helpful if you read them in general.
In general, she says.
One more question to clarify consortium benefits, if I might. Because last year when we received preferred sustainability status, we were told that preferred sustainability status was open to anyone in our region, whether or our planning grant area, whether or not they were a consortium member. And I guess my question, is that the way that it works?
We're going to actually go over that in some detail when we get to
Okay.
2012.1, preferred sustainability status. So hold that thought for just a few minutes.
Your thunder lightning.
He's got his binder out with the budget showing. I'm getting nervous.
Okay. I have like the 424 that we have, for our program, and we have a list of sub-grantees. And I don't mean to point, your name tag's not up, but he mentioned that if we don't, I take those as our partners, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, what about the dollar amount allocated under the 424 for the sub-grantees? Meaning, what if we don't use all those funds? I could have, in an earlier discussion on the phone, been advised that we have flexibility to move funds around, and that's not that big of an issue.
Let me say a little bit about that. So, you have a partner you wrote into your grant for $50,000 to do study of transportation corridors. They come back at $42,000 and they finish the work. Great. That $8,000 can be used for some other purpose. Now, there are a couple ways it works. You could have $8,000 still in that sub-grantee or consulting line for other purposes. You talked over with the GTR. They said that makes sense. You go forward. It could be that you decide, we need to put that to personnel because this is taking more time. All these meetings that HUD's making us go to is taking too much time. We want to have some more money for that. That's fine too. As dollars move from category to category, and I mean like the 10 major categories on your budget, we track that. When you get to 10% of your HUD budget moving between categories, we have to do a budget amendment. So you might say that 10,000 was, or 8,000 was half of your allotment. We'll say, this is approved. Please note you've moved 5% across the lines. When we get to 10%, we're going to do an amendment, and it goes from there. So I'm going to push this forward unless there's another consortium agreement question and get to 2011.3 or 4, I guess, since 3 was, yes, there we go.
Hello, I'm Thaddeus Winsek. I'm the grant officer for some of you. For a few of you, I'm also the GTR. I'm going to go over OSHC 2011-04 guidance, which will be documentation to submit reimbursement requests. So unlike consortium agreements, this will be for everyone, for regional and challenge grantees. There's basically 4 key pieces of items you need to bring to your GTR to make any reimbursement on costs you've incurred. First is the HUD 27053. Next is your HUD OSHC grant reimbursement request form. That's part 3. Both of these you should have. Certainly the 27053 was included in your award letter. If you don't have your grants reimbursement request form part 3, we can send it out to you accordingly. Next, this is important, you need supporting documentation depending on what type of expenditure it is. So, personnel and fringe, you want your payroll sheet, payroll report, contractors, consultants, and others, invoices is usually your best bet. And then finally, for other direct costs, we'll just need copies of your receipts for those. Just some sort of tangible documentation or record of costs incurred. Finally, and this is more important for more larger costs, is a short narrative detailing the reimbursement request. And again, it can only be it could be a few sentences for something very small. It could be a paragraph or 2 or even a conversation on top of it if it's a much longer, larger cost. You can always work with us as your GTR, and we'll always guide you through it. But those are the 4 pieces that we always need for a cost reimbursement.
Let me say a little something here, by the way. We love all of you, and those of you who are new to us, we are just beginning to love you, but by month 3 or 4, it's true. But we love those of you who submit good reimbursement requests a little bit more. Because when you're racing to beat the federal piggy bank and it's about to close at 8 o'clock, and you've been hammering at it, oh, we need that money, please reimburse us, and then we go into your transmission and the PDF is faded, and we can't read the numbers and the checks, and the stuff's not in order, and there's something missing, or there's got letter coding that we can't track, or, those are the things that drive you a little bit mad. So this is the basics of what we need, but we actually are going to, based on our experience from year 1, put out some kind of unofficial guidance on 10 things to make your GTR happy as they're quickly processing your reimbursement. And it's true, the clearer they are, the faster we can turn them around. Jared's actually here. He is a dual grantee. He didn't stand up earlier. I think he was embarrassed that they came in at 10 and 11. But he can speak to the fact that those that come in cleanly go out quickly. So I don't know if you would reimburse. He's nodding in agreement. You can check with him later about the ones that weren't so clean.
I'll say Dwayne's a stickler, but we work it, we communicate. That's important.
And I'm only a stickler because I enjoy life outside of jail. It's a beautiful place. The other thing I'd say too is that you can. As Zuleika said earlier, we don't need pay stubs. It's by system. Some people's accounting financial systems are actually easier for them to generate pay stubs to show that people have been paid than it is to have a ledger that actually works as a documentation. We'll work with you to figure out what the best system is. And I'll say between the grants I have and those I've surrogated for GTR on rotation, I've now seen about 48 grantees and about 45 accounting systems. So remember your GTR when you're submitting these things, because there's a little bit of sanity at stake every time they do an approval.
Also, just please email these to us. Don't mail them.
Yes.
It'll take us a month or more to get it. And often when we get it, the pages are all stuck together and yellow, and like you get the ink on the other side of the page, and it's
Radiation does that to paper.
You have this giant pile of paper, and please email them.
Absolutely.
And if I might just add one thing, in the interest of keeping things simple for the GTR, it makes it a lot easier for us when you're submitting invoices for consultant services, for example, or supplies and materials. You know, what we do, or what I do anyway, I think the other GTRs do as well, we really just look at the invoices and we add them up, and we see if they match the figure on the
27053. Both that and the Part 3 form. That category Part 3 form, that's what Zuleika was saying we're working toward getting to be online for you to make it a little easier, but until it does, that form is very critical for us to match those up.
Right, and it's not uncommon for the figures not to add up, and perhaps they're covering some of it with their leverage funds, and there could be some other explanation. But one thing you might want to consider doing is just throwing another sheet in there. If it's a complicated reimbursement where there are a lot of invoices involved and they don't necessarily add up exactly because you're drawing on other funds, just list them. Just add, and just show me the calculation that's arriving at that figure on, say, the consultant line or the supplies and materials line, or one of the other lines for that matter, and that'll just make things a lot easier.
All this may sound somewhat vague until you try your first reimbursement, and then it'll become very clear.
All right, so the next thing, we're going to skip the guidance about environmental clearance till the end, because it's so fun. So there's a guidance in here about indirect cost rate proposal submission procedures. If you don't already have a recognized indirect cost rate and you want one, this is how you get one. Talk to your grant officer. The next one is the semi-annual progress reporting requirements.
Well, we've already talked about this one at some length. What I will say is for the 10 grantees, we gave them some additional guidance for their year-end submission based on what we learned from their semi-annuals. And we'll share that with you guys a little bit closer to the time that it's additional, it's like complimentary guidance, just some extra tips to help make that more useful. And we'll share that with you soon so you can keep that in mind as you're moving forward. But it didn't change what's the actual required work, just how to think about writing it up so it's useful for us as grant officers. And again, as I mentioned, people are constantly asking us for leverage opportunities, connection opportunities to your grants. And so how well you tell your story helps us tell it as well. So just stay tuned for that.
And you might want to just note that some of the documents listed in this guidance are required twice a year, and some of them are only required once a year. So like the logic model, you only submit every year, not every 6 months. Any questions about those documents? Great. Next is preferred sustainability status, which I think was Solon.
So when Shelley and the partnership team talked about preferred sustainability status, I was sitting right back there in the corner and looking at lots of nods of heads and saying, this is a great thing. It is a great thing. The Secretary Donovan, at the beginning of our program, was deeply committed to preferred sustainability status and trying as much as possible, to a point that Naomi made a little bit earlier, to get the machinery of the agency to be aligned toward the livability principles and the work that you're actually doing. So for preferred sustainability status, there is program guidance about how this needs to operate. It actually applies to your regional and challenge grantees. So all of you here in the room, it applies to you. You would have submitted as part of your application package, but if there are any errors in your maps of what the applied geography is of your grant, we need to make sure that we get those maps online, because as you can imagine, there was a question earlier around what is the project area of the grant and what would be included for the more favorable PSS status. That is all linked from the maps that you submit. They get submitted online, but make sure to let us know whether the maps that you have submitted are correct. The relevant geography, again, for regional planning grantees is within the regional geography of your grant. For the community challenge grantees, within the project geography, often at corridor scale or neighborhood-based scale, or sometimes at the level of a city. The entity that can certify applicants for PSS bonus points is the designated point of contact for the grant, with one exception. The exception is if you are applying for PSS status, then you have to get your regional administrator to certify your PSS status. We can tell you lots of lessons about folks who felt like they can in a Napoleonic way, kind of self-crown themselves with all the points known to mankind, and that's not exactly how that works.
No, and I can say there are a lot of forms in HUD. This is the simplest form you will ever find. There are 3 questions, the name of the contact or the regional administrator who should sign this. And unfortunately, we have people who were in the last competition who self-medicated and signed their own forms. And because we spelled out very clearly how to get the status, we could not give them those points. So to Solon's point, this is very important to note. You have to have the conversation, you have to show the alignment and commit to working together, and that's all it takes, but then the right person needs to sign the form.
So I'm sorry, because I'm always trying to figure out what level I'm at here. When you say the regional supervisor, do you mean the HUD regional supervisor, or do you mean I'm the director of my region, or do you mean the grant region?
So here's how it works. If, let's just say, which grant are you again? Remind me? No, but what's your grant? Who are you?
Tri-County Regional Planning.
Okay. So Tri-County is going to apply for Choice Neighborhood as the lead applicant, and they want the points. You would actually go to the regional administrator of Region 5, HUD Region 5. Now, in this case, that HUD Region 5 administrator probably has designated someone else to review your thing and sign it. In this case, I'm pretty sure it would be Brian Gillen, who's the lead sustainability officer for all of Region 5. He would be the one to certify and go from there.
So to take it down a different level, if my City of Lansing Housing Coalition wanted to apply for it and get a couple of points
They go to you. Yep.
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, more on preferred sustainability. So the process to certify an application, bonus points, and again, it's the HUD 2995 form. You will become intimately familiar with this. The applicant from your project geography is applying to the grant. Currently, again, remember, there are a set of HUD grants, competitive grants. You met Alexa earlier, who was from the Choice Neighborhoods program. That's one of the preferred sustainability status grant programs. The applicant is engaged in the activities. You're essentially checking for alignment. Now, here is something that you should think about. As we initiated preferred sustainability status, there were several grantees, I won't count how many, but several grantees who, realizing that it can actually be a fairly powerful thing that you're doing, right? You are endorsing an application. We've told you before that it's often fractions of a point that separate win and loss. That's pretty powerful. Some have actually created structures in their consortia to field applications and actually be, as an aside, an ad hoc committee. So you'll hear lots about today and tomorrow about rules of the road and what we encourage you to do. There is a lot of flexibility in how you do your certification. We just need to make sure that the kind of baseline rules that you see listed on the slide are actually followed. But if you want to create a process, create a number of members of your consortium who are fielding the applications, open it up. Again, out of a rule of openness and transparency, and given the kind of power and authority you have, we would encourage you to do that if that makes sense. You determine that the project meets the criteria. Again, complete that HUD form, 2995 form. It literally is maybe back and forth, like 3 pages. And you'll remember 3 answers, but I think it's like a back and forth. It's like 2 pages. The applicant is responsible for including the Form 2995 when they submit the application, for argument's sake, for the Choice Neighborhoods program. We do reserve the right, HUD that is, to reserve the right to actually check whether you certified correctly or whether the points were, so there is a fail-safe there. We did have a number of grantees, and we could talk a little bit later on, who were a little worried about this power. And quite frankly, a little worried about saying no to applicants, knowing that they may actually encounter a level of volume. And so, again, we could talk a little bit more about those kind of practical lessons learned.
Yeah, no, actually, I just want to pose a question to you, Solon. We have a number of situations where, in effect, we have grants within grants. So, for example, just among the grants I'm managing, we have the City of Warren here today. It is within the jurisdiction of the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium. We have Washtenaw County, Michigan, within Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, which was a fiscal 10 grantee. What do we do in that sort of situation?
4 points, 4 points. No. The City of Warren would have the option of approaching the region if the grant program suited that, and I think it's a strategic call on their part to say it makes more sense for us to get the points from the region and submit that, or they could go to the regional administrator if it makes more sense for them to just, declare and then be designated. They have the option.
Can an applicant double dip?
Sure, but you only get 2 points. I mean, if you really want a really strong and clear 2 points, you can get 2 signatures. But
so in other words, there's only 2 points possible. So you can't double up and get 4 points or something like that.
You probably would only confuse the person reviewing the application and make it more challenging. So you should probably just go for the 1.
All right. So these slides just summarize the documents. So there's 4 slides on this one.
Oh, there's a list of programs.
Yep.
You see a part of your agenda called the secret sauce, and I'll be bringing you that secret sauce. A part of this is both the current and the future of preferred sustainability status, but these programs are important to kind of make note of, and we'll tell you a little bit more later on today about where PSS might be headed.
Okay, we just recently, on February 15th, put out a new guidance piece, 2012-02, on the use of grant funds to purchase food and beverages. Prior to the issuance of this notice, HUD took the position, or the Sustainable Communities Office took the position, that grant funds could not be used to purchase food or beverages under any circumstances. But we realize, we understand that the providing food at public meetings is a convenience to the public. It's an enticement to people to participate. Frequently, meetings are in the evening. People have to go straight from work to the meeting. They may miss dinner, and it's just a major convenience to be able to have a little bite to eat at the meeting. So we had a conversation with the Office of the General Counsel, OGC as it's called within HUD, took a look at the OPM circulars that were pertinent to this issue, and other rules and regs, HUD's rules and regs. And we were able to develop this guidance piece, which does in fact permit the use of grant funds to be used to purchase food and beverages under certain circumstances. And in a nutshell, you always need to check with your GTR before using grant funds to purchase food and beverages for a meeting. The technical language we use in the guidance piece is that, and let me read you the pertinent language here, because we got this straight from OGC. We wanted to modify it to make it a little more useful, and unfortunately, they didn't permit us to do that. So let me go ahead and read it to you. The food and beverages purchased with grant funds will be provided at a meeting where the primary purpose is to disseminate technical information as approved by the grantee's GTR. So what does that mean, disseminate technical information? It could mean just about anything. In a planning exercise, naturally, one of the things that you'll all be doing at some point is gathering data and information. If you're a Category 1 regional grantee, obviously you're going to be putting together a lot of data information that you'll use to develop your plan. And you'll provide it to the public. You'll provide it, it'll be discussed at your consortium meetings, at your various committee meetings, depending on how your initiative is structured, but certainly at public meetings. And, well, that's technical information. If you're a Category 2 regional grantee, you already have a plan in place, well, certainly you're going to be discussing that existing plan with the public at your meetings. If you're a challenge grantee, very much the same situation. But the rule of thumb is to always check with your GTR. We do have a couple other requirements here. The meeting in question has to be open to the general public. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a public meeting for the purpose of getting input on a plan. It could be a consortium meeting. It could be if you have a committee structure, it could be a committee meeting, but it has to be open to the public. If the meeting is, I don't know if any of you would have a situation where you'd have a meeting that would not be open to the public, that would just be open to, say, consortium members or staff or something like that. It would not be permissible to use grant funds to purchase food for that type of meeting. Let's see what other requirements we have here. Well, we do have a requirement that over the length of the grant, you cannot use more than 2.5% of your total budget for food and beverages. We do require that you share the agenda with your GTR as part of the approval process, the agenda of the meeting. And in that, you'll need to show your GTR that the meeting's open to the public and that technical information is going to be disseminated. And then really, finally, just use your, just use good judgment and as to the types of food and beverages that you purchase. Certainly alcohol, it is not permissible to use grant funds to purchase alcohol.
Or match.
Pardon me?
Or matching funds.
Right.
We brought
or
the liquor
matching
with the
funds.
matching
Right. Everything I
funds. say
about grant funds applies to matching funds and leverage funds as well. We have quite a bit of language in here about, we avoid expenses that should be considered lavish, excessive, wasteful, or unnecessary. Well, we'll just leave it at that. We probably don't want to have little servings of filet mignon or caviar or that type of thing.
Before we get
although
into this-
back when I was a planner, I do many years ago, I do remember going to a public meeting where caviar was
And that,
served.
Steve, that is why we have this guidance.
Anyway,
So just a couple of things. It wasn't like we woke up 11 months in the process and said, "Oh, food's important," for particularly marginalized populations or people who have to make arrangements to get to meetings to have access. You just have to remember the political moment we were in at the time our program came about and some of the things that were happening and being exposed around spending on food. And so we were waiting for a moment to bring the guidance to bear, which we have now. And the 2.5% may seem like a strange number, but if you think about a $3 million grant, 2.5%, somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 or thereabouts, or 100,000? 30, so there you go. But if we have a couple of grants where you could have, if you went to 5% as an example, a large number in the tens of thousands being spent on food, and that's this, as James likes to say, the Washington Post test. And so we don't want to end up there for a reasonable expense. So 2.5% is where we landed. The other thing I'd say is, I think Steve touched on it, was on the bullet there, is you can get permission for a series of meetings. So if you're going to do 10 outreach meetings over a period of 9 months and they're all the same meeting in different places, you can broach that with the GTR, get that permission, not have to come back every time. So that's your secret sauce, too. Do you want to use that for secret sauce?
So this, we're going to table this. This particular conversation is going to be incorporated in the secret sauce part of the agenda, the fair housing and equity assessment. Let me just say one quick thing, and then I'll postpone the rest. Equity and opportunity, access to opportunity, were critical dimensions of the NOFA. If that was lost on any of you, please read your NOFA again. It was hugely prominent. If there's something, among other things, that actually undergirds all of you being in the room, and in some cases, some who didn't make it into this room, it's this notion of kind of equity and access to opportunity. We have a particular requirement for the regional planning grantees that you will hear more about during the secret sauce presentation that has both some exciting things, maybe for policy wonks, exciting things to kind of talk through, but guidance that you see in your program guidance issued around that, and we'll field some questions a little bit later on around exactly what that means for the regional planning grantees.
This is the point usually when you're at your absolute lowest energy level in the day. So we're going to have everyone stand up at first, not everyone, regions 6 and 7, the breadbasket. If you don't remember, 6 and 7, stand up. Okay, you guys are the winners of the Dunkin' Donut contest. You get to go upstairs during the break. No, we'd like you to introduce yourselves before we go to break. And after you introduce yourselves, we're going to ask that you're back at 3:10, and we're going to introduce the last of the grantees and then roll into our much-awaited conversation about the lodging model. So, go ahead. Yeah, you can start.
Richie, City of Austin.